Hey, it's Rager, and I'm back with another crypto market update. We've just had the weekly close for Bitcoin, and it's a candle that might scare you. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that here in a minute. Talk about what you need to look at for this coming week, what's going on. It's going to be important to understand and know that. So we'll go ahead and get into that, and we'll talk about a couple of low caps as well, high risk, high reward type of thing. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana Link, a few low caps. We'll go ahead and roll into it. Nothing is financial advice, as always. It's my opinion. And so if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, I've been in this market for a long time. I've been successful. I have nothing to sell you. And I just really love making content. So whether you're in the West or whether you're in Asia, love to have you. And thanks for watching. And we'll go ahead and let's go ahead and look at the Bitcoin chart. So Bitcoin, if you look at the daily chart right here, you're going to just see that we basically had some consolidation. But the important thing is that we've held this range. Now, we did deviate below it. We did break below it, hit 112, of course, then had more of a swing failure pattern. That's when price will go above the previous high, kind of catch people off guard. People will then run and buy, thinking that we're about to go on another run. And of course, it just whips back and becomes a big red candle. So we had that on the daily a few days ago. Now, the weekly close, however, has showed that we cannot break above the 120 level. And so I'll go ahead and zoom in there, and you're gonna notice this nasty red wick right here that went up to 124, and we closed here at 117. Now, that doesn't look good whatsoever on a weekly macro view of the chart. But the good news is the last time we experienced that was just last in July, a few weeks ago. And look what happened next. We actually had a green candle, and we closed at 117 that week. We ended up closing at 119 the next week. Of course, whip down, whip back up. And we're really just having this seesaw impact. And I think that it's really just, it's the summertime. And as I've said before, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. So there's a lot of things to come to play. We'll talk about that in a minute, what to watch. But if we go ahead and zoom in on the 4-hour chart, again, holding this level that acted as support for so long. A few people that I know think that there's a potential to come back down and sweep the low, meaning that price could potentially come back down here, sweep the low, and then run high. I think that there's more potential, in my personal opinion, to actually run up again to highs, sweep that level, and then eventually catch enough people off guard and then dump more into September into that event. So we'll see what happens, because you have to take it day by day and level by level. Anything else is just pure speculation, and it's not going to help. We can sit here and speculate all day, all week about what could happen in the following weeks, but you have to be prepared and just understand level by level what's going on. Now, Ethereum has actually looked pretty good. This is the weekly chart. I did show this is a long-term magnet that I had for a long time now, and I'm just going to leave it there because it actually did wake up to that area. And so beautiful, beautiful week for Ethereum the last 2 weeks. But the only problem is, again, is it whipped up into this area to where you had sellers who typically, anytime you have a major asset, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, anything like that, that hits a major high, you're going to notice that people will sell into that. It's kind of like sell the news event the first time it hits there. So that's what happened with Ethereum. If you want to go ahead and look at the daily chart, it pulled back a little bit, not too much. And of course, we're going sideways. So an area to watch if we do come back down, I'm going to go ahead and go into the 4-hour chart. An area to watch would probably be sweeping this level around 4,100. So I don't think we'll necessarily get below that. If we do, well, then we're probably going to retest more or less 3,800. But potential, if things break down, again, I'm just giving you scenarios. If things break down, I think that this is where you want to bid right here, 4,100. A little above that, 4,150, 4,190 there at that level, but potential to sweep there and then go above. Now, it really depends on the talks this week. So I went ahead and asked ChatGPT, and I looked up, what's going on this week? What is important to know as far as a timetable and what to watch for the markets. And what we have is we have the central bank policies talk about Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell speaks at Jackson Hole. And then also, too, in the midweek, we're also going to have the FOMC meeting minutes from last month. So whenever Jerome Powell speaks, it tends to impact the markets because, again, if he comes into talking about how they don't want to cut rates, then it's likely that we're going to have an impact right now and the markets are going to pull back. If he goes into these meetings talking about rate cuts once more, then you have to know that it's very likely that we do end up moving up again. As I said earlier, a couple different scenarios to move up or down. I still think that more or less we could move up and then sweep the highs, come back down after this the next couple of weeks. I can't talk. It's late in the day. My goodness. But also too, what to know: jobless claims, home sales, PMIs, leading indicators for economic data. So that's going to come out also this week. You want to make sure to pay attention to that as well. Earnings report, not really big, not a big deal. I mean, Home Depot, Target, Walmart, Lowe's. That's not like banks. It's not the Mag 7 big companies. So we don't really need to focus on that. And of course, anything that the president talks about of the United States, that could also be big as well. So that will impact global sentiment. But bottom line, there are some things going on, especially with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Man, guys, I just cannot talk today, so I appreciate your patience. But Federal Reserve Jerome Powell is going to speak this week in the FOMC meeting minutes, and that should have an impact overall on the market. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of more things before we go on to some low caps. But Bitcoin is down around 10%, which typically has been what we've seen back in November. We saw Bitcoin dominance here drop 10% to around 55%. Currently, it went from 66% to around 59%. So that's around a 10% drop. That's usually what we've been getting before another run up. So that is one reason to, of course, have caution. Now, if the market pulls back in any way, Bitcoin dominance will continue on. It will continue to move up overall. So understand, anytime we have market weakness, Bitcoin is going to be the dominant overall factor when it comes to strength. So let's go ahead and look at ETH BTC. Now with the Ethereum Bitcoin chart right here, again, we have some strength. And so this is the daily. Let's go to the weekly. It's been really strong. And so we haven't had a pullback here since June. So Ethereum has been leading the market against Bitcoin here for the past 2 months, but will it continue? And that is going to be based on a pullback. If we're going to have a pullback, again, I do foresee Bitcoin to be the overall strongest asset in crypto. So after bouncing off the lows from back in 2020, we have had some strength in Ethereum. And so I think that what happens is that when ETH tops out over its new all-time high, which we have not seen yet, as I said earlier, we did wick into it up here, but once we see it break above 5,000, based on what that does, we'll probably see some altcoins then follow up from there. But we have had some strong altcoins, specifically with Chainlink, which is still pumping right now. It is up over 10% today. I did tell you guys down here around $21. Make sure to have some exposure to Chainlink if you're into crypto and the long-term holds, because I believe that it's going to hit on 30, then 36. Then as you zoom out, I believe that we will eventually then hit up in the over the $50 mark for Chainlink. That is when you want to watch. It is very strong. And whenever you have a market like this, you want to buy strength. So buy those coins that are showing strength, that are uptrending, that whenever the market pulls back, that bounce back harder, and Chainlink is one of those. So if you get anything out of today's video, I want you to remember that Chainlink is very strong, and that's something that you need to keep an eye on when it comes to the market. So now from there, I have been trading low cap coins. I have asked people what they wanted me to watch, what they're trading as well too. One specifically that came up was True Markets. And so I don't have any True Markets at all, but this is kind of like Polymarket on chain. And so Polymarket doesn't have a token, but it does have a bot called Polycule Bot. And I've talked about that before. It has a token called PQL, and it's doing okay around 3 to 4 million market cap right now. But Polymarkets does not have an official token. True Markets does, and it's currently at 7.5 million. And so I was told to take a look at this chart, that this was something fundamentally from an OG in crypto that they really liked, Messe. So he said to take a look at this, and I do like the chart overall. What you're going to notice is that it did bounce down here around this 4 to 5 million market cap area, which that's where you wanted it to bounce. And it's still in a downtrend right here, but it looks like, of course, if we don't have a market nuke, as long as Bitcoin doesn't puke here, I do foresee this to continue to, that's an awful line. So disregard that line. I do see it to continue to move up over 8 million potentially right here. So I do like this chart. Tempted to buy. It's actually on base. So again, depending on if you trade on base chain or not, typically most people, as I said before, have some funds on base, have some funds on Solana, because that's where you're going to find the best altcoins overall in lower cap. So fundamentally, True Markets looks pretty good. I have not checked out the product, but it does look like you can do most of what you can do on Polymarket, but this seems to be more decentralized and of course has a token. Now, the only other things we want to look at, I did talk about this in my Telegram. I do have a public Telegram channel. It has a few hundred people in it, not a lot. I talk about trades that I took, but we did specifically, when I posted some of these, make 2 to 5x gains this week. And sometimes I lose, sometimes I hit big. And so I just will post thoughts on trades and low market caps along with my thesis of each and why I like those. I want to go ahead and laugh about Woejack, because Woejack has been pushing up again after, of course, it hit up to 10 million. I was pretty bullish on Woejack, and I did say that I did sell my remaining Woejack after a round trip because it's too much PvP, too many Wojacks, too much fighting between projects. But I did rebuy around 1 to 1.5 million. I shared about that in my Telegram. It did hit over 3 million for a 2x, and it's currently sitting around 2.4 million. Why that is because Pump Fun, the launchpad, actually did tweet with Woejack in it, which is, overall pretty bullish for Woejack. Now, that's really what it needs. If it can somehow get more exposure and push from Pump Fun, then I do believe that Woejack can go back up to this 10 million mark. If it does not get any more exposure, I do foresee that this just be another high or low, a lower high, and just kind of come back down. But if this does break back down below, 1.5, kind of my entry, I'll just cut it. But Woejack overall, just an OG meme that I believe should be a $1 billion meme in crypto. But, it just doesn't look like enough people are behind it or like it. I think it's so ingrained in people's mind that they love the meme, but it's kind of like, maybe they can't identify with it. So I'm not for sure why it's not as popular, but overall, I do think that it's great. And if Pump Fun gets behind it, then I think we'll see it move up. If we don't, then maybe not. Now, Halo is one that has actually been doing pretty good. I did talk about Halo lower down around 2 million market cap or so. And I discussed Halo just being a token overall that might be the specific asset for the HeavenDex Launchpad chain. And so HeavenDex is a launchpad, and they recently had a big raise of $20 million. I talked about this on a previous video. Did not like what they did. They didn't provide a lot of liquidity, and the token value was cut in half. Now, I did take part in the sale, but I'm still holding my token. That token Light is actually up quite a bit. We could probably look that up in a minute. But Halo is one that could potentially be one of the major runners on Heaven Dex. So it has pulled back quite a bit. It's pulled back almost 50% right here. And so potentially a good entry here. I do like to talk about coins when they're pulling back or grinding or going sideways. When something pumps a lot over the course, like it pumped from 4 million to 8 million here, I wouldn't want you to enter there on a 2x. But overall, a nice pullback of 50% typically is not bad whatsoever. But if it can hold here around 4 million, potential entry here, I do like it if Heaven Dex continues to get good exposure. So that's one that I'm in right now. I like it fine. I took out my initials up at 7 to 8 million, meaning that I took some risk off, but then it's like a free ride when you take out your initial profits that you put in. And then from here, I'm just going from there. So, as far as risk goes, this is the market. When you're trading, you have to put in risk because you're making profits off risk. If you're willing to not risk at all, for me, for low caps, they're higher risk, but I'm willing to put some money in, not as much as Bitcoin or Ethereum. Again, a small percentage of your portfolio. But as I trade these things, I do talk about them here because they had the highest upside. And so there have been so many more people in the last 4 years that have retired or changed their life financially, not from Bitcoin or Ethereum, but from low caps, okay? It's just the truth. It's just a fact. Again, higher risk. And the problem is it's not even the low caps per se. It's the risk management of people buying into them. So buying into these things on massive pumps, okay, and not during dips. It's kind of like you want to buy when that's how you do it. You want to buy when other people don't want to buy. And so Halo in general, if I was looking to get into this, it's not a bad area just for the fact that it's dipped 50%. Will it continue on down? It could. It can continue to dump. But the risk reward is better than it was at 8 million when people probably wanted to buy. It's like Bitcoin. Nobody wants to buy on dips. Everyone wants to buy when it pumps. But Light overall has been doing pretty well. 78 million market cap, 127 FTV. It's just been grinding up here. Again, I want to see it hold above 66 million. This one, not for sure my thoughts about it to tell people to get in because really what they have is a flywheel effect, meaning that this DEX, as they get fees, they go back into this token and they buy it up. Will it continue to go up? I think we've yet to see, but there are people who are currently up 3x from the pre-sale, including myself. So I'm just telling you that, like you want to know. I want you to be. I want to be honest with you. People are up 3x, so they'll take profits. So just understand that. I would probably wait for more of a dip to get into this one right here because again, at 78 million market cap, it's a little bit high. So some other things that I like specifically that I did talk about that Uni PCS, aka the bonk guy last year, did talk about a couple of coins, and he talked about football Inu and stupid Inu. And so there has been a stupid Inu that ran up to 8 million market cap, but nobody made a football Inu and nobody ever has. And that's what really stuck out to me about this specifically. And its ticker is FBI, which I find to be hilarious. It's not a long one like football, but FBI. And what they did was they actually drew a face on a dog. And it's really sloppy and it's really messy. And they've had some funny stuff with it. But overall, I think that this is original. I think that it's funny. And I think that it can get attention, not only just in crypto, but also too, the Premier League, I know in Europe has recently started back again. So football season in America, they say soccer, but if you're a serious soccer player, you also call it football. And you also use the same terminology, kits, pitch, etc., as a lot of the professionals do. And you also typically will call it football, especially professionals in America. So typically soccer, even though they call it that, most people call it football, and it's known globally, even though we do have American football that you play with your hands and not with your feet. Who knows why that ever happened. But as far as this goes, football Inu is pretty comical. It's pretty hilarious. I do think it's good. It's been kind of slow, but it's held overall. anything above 600K market cap, it's showing strength right here. So this is a nice overall trend up. And if this continues up, I can see it well above $1 million. As far as targets go too, again, the stupid Inu that Bonk Guy did talk about hit 7 to 8 million market cap. And I believe that this is a much better meme. It's way more memeable, and I think that it could catch on. And overall, 700K market cap, a little bit higher risk when stuff is lower. But again, it's one of those things that I share with people. It's not something that you put a massive amount of money in, higher risk, higher reward type of thing. I do like it. And so it's one of the things that I have talked about. And I've also joined their community on Twitter. So again, it's a lot of fun. I love it original. One thing that I'm watching as far as low cap market caps, and the other ones, of course, was Halo. Watching Woejack to see if it can hold. And so the other new one that I'm not in is True. So and that's the Polymarket decentralized exchange. Okay, so now the last thing that I want to talk about before we go is the Fed watch from CME, and it looks like it has dropped from 92% to an 84% chance to have rate cuts in September. So why do I tell you this? Well, that's because it was 100% last week. It dropped to 92% chance. Now it's 84% chance. As long as this is above 65 to 70% chance, it's very likely that we're going to have more Fed rate cuts here in the coming month, which is bullish overall. That's why this week matters. That's why you want to watch both the FOMC minutes and Jerome Powell as he speaks this week to see how he talks. If he talks in a tone that is for rate cuts, or if he talks in a tone, again, that they don't want to cut rates, that's probably going to impact the overall number for this for probability, as well as potential of the market. And so we also want to pay attention to the jobless claims, those leading indicators for the economic data, for the fact that that's going to have an impact. If those are bad, again, meaning that the inflation's high, it's not going to be good for rate cuts. But if it's come down, if that's better, then we're going to know that typically when people, as we've seen, like people who lose jobs, whose jobs aren't good, that's one way that they will stimulate the economy is the rate cuts. But we'll go ahead and look at that data this week, and if it's in a good place, it's going to impact overall. So that's another thing that I want you to keep an eye on. But I did want to go over this Federal Reserve Fed Watch tool, 84%, as we go into the week. So the weekly close, and it closed red, but we'll see what Bitcoin has ahead for us this week. Lots ahead. As we know, there's so much going on, so you can't really predict the future. But I did give you some opportunity to look at potential sweep areas or scenarios for both up or down, because you have to look at both when it comes to trading. You just can't, predict or think one way or the other. The market will likely continue to grind up overall over the course of the year. 3 months from now, I do believe that Bitcoin is a lot higher than it is today. But again, if you want good entries, or if you're trading this on leverage, you have to be aware of where the market stands and what could happen with price. So with that said, that's it. That's it for the weekly close as we open the week. Good things ahead. I hope that you guys have a great start to your week. Have a great evening or daytime if you're in Asia. Trade safe, and I will see you on the next one.